Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and this important Bitcoin indicator is flashing a brand new signal that we need to pay attention to. And while that is happening, we're seeing the Bitcoin long positions over on Bitfinex absolutely explode, with $1.5 billion entering into these long positions just in recent months. So I'll be covering all of that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum later in this video, as Ethereum is getting closer to that price target that I set a few days ago. So definitely stick around to the end of this video so that you don't miss out on any of these important information. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and what I mentioned in my last Bitcoin update video that I posted yesterday on the channel was basically a risk of the Bitcoin price re-entering into this price range in between 28,500 and around 22,500. And in case you're new to the channel, this green line is the 1,000-day moving average, and the red line is the 200-week moving average. And every significant Bitcoin bottom, basically all of the best buying opportunities throughout Bitcoin's history, like the end of bear markets, for example, or the March 2020 crash, have occurred while the Bitcoin price is in between these moving averages, and basically the closer towards the 200-week moving average, the better the opportunity, historically speaking. And so once again, right now at the time of recording this video, the Bitcoin price is in this price range in between these moving averages, which does not happen very often. Once again, this only usually happens towards the end of a bear market or in that black swan event in early 2020. But once again, this is a range that goes down towards the 200-week moving average, sitting at around 22.3k. So technically speaking, with that in mind, there's still some room to the downside, but the room to the downside is very limited according to Bitcoin's entire price history. And also, if you're looking at the weekly Bitcoin RSI, we're getting extremely close to oversold territories. That does not happen very often. We've only ever seen that happen just two other times, which was at the end of the 2018 bear market and at the end of the 2014 bear market, when the Bitcoin price was basically bottoming out, getting ready for a big consolidation and another bull run in months later. And now taking a look at the daily Bitcoin charts, because we have a brand new signal flashing right now, and this indicator is known as the hash ribbons, and it's derived from the Bitcoin hash rate. And if you have no idea what the Bitcoin hash rate is, I suggest you doing more research, because that is a very important fundamental for Bitcoin. But basically, these two lines right here in the hash ribbons indicator are moving averages of the Bitcoin hash rate. The green line is the 30-day simple moving average of the Bitcoin hash rate, and the gray line is the 60-day simple moving average of the Bitcoin hash rate. And basically, anytime where we see the shorter moving average, the 30-day moving average, which is the green line, cross underneath the longer moving average, which is the gray line, that basically means the Bitcoin hash rate is losing some of its upwards momentum. And in some cases, we could even see a slight pullback in the Bitcoin hash rate. And now in certain circumstances, this can be due to different things. For example, what we saw in the middle of last year was, of course, China ban Bitcoin again for, I think, the fourth or the fifth time now. But anyway, in this situation, we saw a lot of Bitcoin miners mining in China basically switch off their machines and relocate to other areas of the world. And during that time period right there, where we saw a decent chunk of Bitcoin miners switch off their machines, we saw the hash rate go down, at least in the shorter term, before then recovering later on. And now that was more of a severe pullback in the Bitcoin hash rate, because we don't normally see a pullback of that size very often, because the majority of the time that we see this capitulation signal pop up in this hash ribbons indicator, it usually just means Bitcoin mining profitability at the moment is lower than what it was, due to the fact that the Bitcoin price is obviously lower than, for example, a few months ago, and also electricity costs might have increased. And of course, this is certainly not the first time this has happened. This has happened multiple times throughout many years worth of Bitcoin's history. But basically, when the Bitcoin miners are under stress during certain time periods like this in the market, that usually means we're getting somewhat close to a Bitcoin bottom, but oftentimes in this indicator, it flashes a blue buy signal like this after a long miner capitulation, where a lot of miners might switch off their machines. And as for how long that miner capitulation could last for, it could last for just a few days, weeks, and even up to a couple months, like what we saw in the middle of last year. And if you're looking at what we saw in 2019 and 2020, basically, we saw a lot of these capitulation signals and buy signals throughout 2019 and 2020. And all four of these capitulation signals eventually ended up in a blue buy signal, which historically speaking has been extremely accurate. Just taking a quick look at some of these buy signals, we saw one one right here, which was at the very end of 2019, right after we saw a capitulation around a month before then. And obviously, as soon as we saw that buy signal, we saw a decent pump in the Bitcoin price by around 40 to 50%. And then we saw another minor capitulation just after the March 2020 crash, and then another buy signal that came after that during April 2020, which was an amazing time to accumulate Bitcoin just before another short-term pump. And then we saw another minor capitulation right after the 2020 halving, which is this red line right here during May 2020. And a little over a month after that, we saw another blue buy signal just before a Bitcoin pump. And then we saw a similar thing in late 2020, once again another minor capitulation, followed by another blue buy signal around a month later approximately, which resulted in a lot more bullish price action. And if you're going back even further on the chart, taking a look at what we saw in the 2018 bear market, we did not see any signal for almost that entire bear market in the hash ribbons up until pretty much the very end of that bear market. In fact, it was right around October, November 2018 where we saw that minor capitulation signal first show up, and then we actually ended up seeing another capitulation in the Bitcoin price just after that, and a couple months later, then we saw a massive blue buy signal in this hash ribbons indicator, which basically told us Bitcoin is getting ready for its next massive bullish move. And if you want to know just how accurate these hash ribbon signals are for Bitcoin, take a look at some previous gains and losses around the buy signals we've seen in the hash ribbons indicator throughout Bitcoin's history. And so these were all separate times where we saw this hash ribbons indicator flash a buy signal, and basically once we saw the buy signal flash in that indicator, the average maximum drawdown in the Bitcoin price after we saw that buy signal was just 11%, another 11% drop before then we bottom out, with the largest drop being another 45% drop after we saw the buy signal, and the smallest drop just being a 1% drop until we bottom out. And then if you're looking at the gains this signal has provided from the buy signal to the next peak in the Bitcoin price, our average maximum gain in the Bitcoin price after we saw one of these buy signals in this indicator was over 4,100%, but keep in mind this is including a lot of early Bitcoin gains, which heavily skews this average. And realistically speaking, it's unlikely we're going to see something like an 80x gain in Bitcoin again. So when it comes to the gains, instead of looking at these older years and looking at the average, if we just pay attention to what's happened more recently in just recent years, it is still totally possible to see a triple figure percentage point gain, meaning over a 100% gain in the Bitcoin price after we see one of these buy signals occur. But once again, this is after we see one of those blue buy signals pop up in this indicator, which we have not seen just yet. We're only just beginning that capitulation phase in the hash ribbons indicator, which usually lasts for at least a few weeks, and in most cases around a month to a month and a half. And what is really interesting is all of this heavily falls in line with this Bitcoin fractal, which is basically the middle of last year's bottom overlaid on top of the current Bitcoin price action. And you can see right here that aside from the small Bitcoin pump that we experienced around a week ago, the Bitcoin price over the past 1 month has been following along with this fractal extremely closely, once again just aside from that small Bitcoin pump that we saw around a week ago. So when it comes to this chart, nothing much has changed over the past few days. So if you're new to the channel and you have no idea what this means, make sure to check out some of my recent videos here on the channel. But getting into the Bitcoin long positions on the Bitfinex exchange, right now they're still exploding to the upside into new all-time highs, which means more and more money is flowing into Bitcoin long positions on this particular exchange. And this chart right here, by the way, is on the daily time frame, and ever since that last low, which was basically during the middle of April, so around 2 months ago, we've seen roughly around 55,000 Bitcoin enter new Bitcoin long positions, which is equivalent to around $1.5 billion US. And if you're looking at the last time we saw such a significant increase in Bitcoin long positions on the Bitfinex exchange, that was happening during the middle of last year, especially going up towards July, which is where these long positions peaked. And obviously it was during this time period right here where we saw the Bitcoin price bottom out, because these long positions are obviously owned by Bitcoin whales if we're talking about billions of dollars entering into these positions, while the amount of users on this particular exchange is very low relative to other exchanges. And another sign that these are Bitcoin whales is the fact that these positions did not get liquidated at all, even when the Bitcoin price initially dumped down towards around 25,000 a month ago. Instead, these traders simply added more money to their long positions, around $1 billion more. But all of this is not talking about the immediate short term. Instead, it's talking about around the mid to long term, talking about the next few months, maybe even the next year or so. Because if you're looking at the short term Bitcoin price action here on the 4-hour time frame, right now we do actually have some bearish market structure forming. Because obviously over the past 1 day, we've seen the Bitcoin price break below that $28,500 level of support. And not only that, we've actually seen a retest coming back up and confirming that as a new resistance with a small rejection from that level. And I mentioned in my last Bitcoin update video that we saw that happen for this $29,500 level of support, and when that happened, that was bearish market structure, so this is basically repeating again for another leg down. And so right now that $28,500 level should be acting as new resistance, as we already have pretty much one confirmation of resistance along that level so far. And as for some other levels of support, I'll be looking at our Fibonacci retracement tool. We do have the golden pocket, which is sitting at around 27,500, but recently at the time of recording this video, the Bitcoin price has been chopping either side of that golden pocket. So really I'll be looking towards the 78.6% Fibonacci level, coming in at around 26.7k as another important level of support, and anything below that I'll be looking towards that 25k low. And now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the weekly Ethereum chart, and right now the RSI on the weekly time frame is entering into oversold territories as I mentioned yesterday, but we have the next weekly candle close coming up in just a couple hours from now at the time of recording this video. And so if we see the weekly Ethereum RSI underneath a value of 30 when it comes time for that weekly candle close in just a couple hours, then that will basically confirm the fact that the weekly Ethereum RSI has entered into oversold territories, which has only ever happened just one other time throughout Ethereum's entire price history, which was at the end of the 2018 bear market. And if you're zooming into the price action that we saw at the end of the 2018 bear market and what we saw in the weekly Ethereum RSI during that same time period, as I said, the weekly Ethereum RSI entered into oversold territories, but keep in mind the first week where we saw a weekly candle close and the RSI underneath a value of 30, meaning it was oversold, that was right here after this significant red weekly candle. And at that time right there, we still had another 3 more weeks before then we actually hit the bottom for the bear market, because the RSI went a little bit lower than just 30. But whether you bought Ethereum at around $110 or at around $80 to $90, it wouldn't have made much difference over the long term. You would have done very well either way. And the keyword there is long term. This is not an immediate short term indicator. Like I said, over the next couple of weeks, Ethereum still dumped back in 2018, but for the long term, this was a great signal. And now taking a look at the short term Ethereum price action here on the 6-hour chart, we have almost hit the technical price target for this pattern, coming in at around $1,400. In fact, at the time of recording this video, the price of Ethereum has gotten within around $20 of this technical price target. So congrats to those of you who traded this move, because obviously if you've been on the channel over the past few days, you'll know that right around here, I was letting you know that I was targeting 1.4k for this break to the downside. And now, considering the fact that Ethereum has had a fairly significant drop in recent days, I'd mostly expect some sort of sideways consolidation range to form for Ethereum over the next few days. Something like this, for example, because usually after a significant drop, the price needs some time to stabilize, and that is usually in the form of some sort of sideways consolidation range like this once again. And just giving you a quick update on the Ethereum short positions on the Bitfinex exchange, and today they are back to closing again, almost back down to all-time low levels. And if you're new to the channel and you have no idea what this means for Ethereum, definitely watch some of my recent Ethereum updates here on the channel. And the same could be said about Ethereum versus Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance, which are very important for altcoin holders out there. But once again, over the past 1 to 2 days, nothing much has changed. So definitely check out some of my recent videos on the channel if you are new. And also, if you want to potentially own yourself a share in up to $8 million, click the first link in the description down below, which will take you to this page right here. And once you're on this page, all you need to do is just join my cryptoworld team in the World Series of Trading, which is the biggest trading competition all year round. And to be eligible for this competition, there is criteria to enter into this competition, which are right here at the bottom of this page. Once again, first link in the description. And I want to make it clear that this is not for complete beginners into crypto. This is for those of you who might be a little bit more experienced, and especially for those of you who trade anyway. And make sure to check out one of these videos popping up right here on your screen if you want to maximize your profits in crypto, even when prices are going down. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.